Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here, coming at you with another card review. It's card reveal season, guys. You're going to expect a lot of these videos, and I'm going to deliver. We got 10 brand new cards for you guys today, and some of them are possibly, maybe, perhaps meta-defining in the new set. So, pretty exciting stuff. Let's see it here. First one is a warrior card. It's a 3-mana 3/2. If you are holding a dragon, you use the execute effect. The execute effect is rather strong, as you might know that most warrior decks include execute. Actually, every single warrior deck that is an odd warrior includes execute because it is just that good. So this is basically going to be a card that, if you are playing dragons, you immediately include this card. Also, if you consider the arena power levels and the fact that you typically don't satisfy synergies in arena it kind of sucks. So it's kind of a weak card in arena with potential to be good based on the deck that you have. And in constructed, it's very likely to see play. This, in my mind, is basically the ideal card in the game. You want arena to have low power level cards, and you want new cards to actually see play in constructed. How about that? I'm going to have to rate this card 4.5 stars. It's obviously going to be an auto-include in any type of, dragon. Even if you have just a few dragons, it's going to be included in your warrior deck 100% of the time. So it's just an auto-include. It is for sure going to see play at any point in the next 2 years where warriors play dragons. Yeah, but will it define the meta? Maybe. Maybe not. So, very good, but we'll have to see where the dragons end up. Raiding Party is the new card draw engine for Rogue. It gives you 2 pirates for 3 mana, and the combo gives you a weapon. So that's pretty good. Weapon searching effects are certainly highly desirable for Rogue. In terms of playing pirates, there are certainly some pirates that you'd want to play. I can think of just Kingsbane Rogue. You play Greenskin. You might play some of the charging pirates. Maybe there's going to be some new ones that are actually going to be, worth it to play them, and you can get your Kingsbane. So, just in that deck alone, yes, it's largely a wild deck right now because the tools aren't really there to keep the deck up to the current standard power level in standard, but, it's still very good, and it's just a very good card draw. One thing I've learned over the years in Hearthstone is you don't underestimate cards that draw other cards. And also you don't underestimate cards that charge, and you don't underestimate cards that have taunt. Okay, so those are the 3 rules of guessing whether cards are going to be good. With that in mind, I think this card is going to be pretty good, especially if we consider the Rogue Lowa, which, yes, we will be going over in just a few minutes here. Raiding Party, I don't think it's going to be meta-defining, but it could be, and it's certainly a high power level draw engine. I'm going to have to give it 4 solid stars for all of those reasons, and it's, I think it's going to make a bigger impact than most people are willing to believe at this point in time. Grave Horror is a new priest minion. It's costing 12, but it's reduced by 1 for each spell you've cast this game. There's not a huge incentive to play a large number of spells in priest, but it's not that hard for priest to do that. So this card as a standalone doesn't seem that strong, but suddenly if there's going to be another card with the same effect or another just reason to play a whole bunch of spells constantly throughout every game, that's going to change this card's power level substantially. I'm going to have to give it 3 stars just because those cards don't really exist right now in the game, but it's still a very good card. Again, not so good in Arena because typically you don't have that many spells, but it's still pretty good in Constructed. I think if you just have it standard priest deck, you're going to get this to the 5, 6, 7 mana range where it's kind of worth playing. It has taunt. Taunt is not to be underestimated, and it has pretty fair stats. It would be stronger if it had more health and less attack, but of course that wouldn't really go with the troll theme, so I understand it. There is another little aspect here that's certainly going to delight you Hearthstone enthusiasts. It is the first worthwhile 12 mana card to evolve into. Currently there are many 10 mana cards, but some of them suck, and if you have like Shaman evolution effects, especially the ones with Echo, you go to 11, and the 11 cost card, there's only one, there's a Snow Fury Giant. It is an 8/8 with no other notable ability through evolution effects. Now, after this card is in the game, there's actually a reason to evolve to 12 because you could get the Grave Horror, which is substantially better than an 8/8 with no abilities because it has taunt. So that's a very nice consideration there. Untamed Beastmaster, 3 mana 3/4. Any card that has that cost and those stats is going to see play in Arena at a high rate whenever it's going to be offered. It's just going to be a very good card. For Constructed, I've taken a look at a lot of the different decks over the years, and even though you might be playing Hunter with a lot of different beasts, you really don't play that many beasts relative to the total cards in your deck. So, yes, even if like half your deck is like beasts, it's kind of like when you draw a card, give it +1/+1, which is like pretty good, but I'm not sure if it's like Constructed level good. So the way that I see people actually using this card in a Constructed deck is perhaps with the Hunter Quest. The Hunter Quest, when satisfied, fills your deck with 15 1-mana 3/2s that when played draw an extra card. So not only does your card draw engine substantially increase, but what also increases is your play rate of beasts. So you're just playing a lot of beasts, and on top of that, these are 1-mana cards. So whenever you have a small minion getting +2/+2, it's a lot more powerful than a large minion getting +2/+2. Now, I can't say I'm super enthusiastic about seeing Hunter Quest, and in fact, I don't even predict we'll see Hunter Quest, but there's a chance. I am telling you, there is a chance. So this card's not bad. It's kind of middle of the road. I'd give it 3 stars. It can see play in just kind of like a casual deck with a bunch of beasts, but it's very unlikely. But it will certainly see play in Quest Hunter, but Quest Hunter seeing play is very unlikely. So we'll see. Spirit of the Tiger is the spirit for Paladin. It's a 4-cost one, so this is the most expensive style of spirit. It has stealth, just like the other ones. It's a 0/3, just like the other ones. The effect is when you cast a spell, summon a tiger with stats equal to its cost. So if you play like a 4-mana spell, your 4-mana spell goes off, and then you get a 4/4 tiger. Is that good? Yeah, that's really good. The way you have to look at these spirits is you are most likely going to get 2 casts, and then it's going to absorb damage. So it's kind of like the next 2 spells that you play will generate minions with the stats relevant to the mana cost of the spells played, and gain 3 life. Is that worth it for 4 mana? Yes, it is. If you're playing large spells, that is definitely worth it for that amount of mana. Now, would a Paladin actually want to play a whole bunch of large spells? That's something that would really have to be refined through execution, but seeing as some of these cards continuously push that archetype, I'm going to be optimistic about it and give Spirit of the Tiger 4 stars, as if that archetype pulls off, Spirit of the Tiger will be crucial to its success. Grawl the Shark, we have the Rogue Lowa. So this is a very highly debated card. I consider it a pretty weak card for a number of reasons. It's a 5-cost 2/2, and you eat a minion in your deck and gain its stats, and then the Death Rattle adds it to your hand. So it's kind of like a mystery amount of stats, and you draw a card for 5, and it's a beast. Is that good? It could be good. I don't like cards, whether they're good or not, I don't like cards that are absolute trash when silenced, and typically really insane / game breaking when not silenced, because the silence effects in Hearthstone are just kind of bland and not interesting. It's not fun to just play silences in every deck because you have to, and it's not really fun to win or lose games based on whether or not you draw silence. If Grawl the Shark gets silenced, it's absolute garbage. If Grawl the Shark pulls like the Darkness and is a 5-cost 22/22 and you don't have any kind of removal, well, I guess you're going to end up on like a highlight reel because, well, that might happen. The reason I mentioned the previous Rogue revealed card that draws 2 pirates and potentially a weapon with this is it might be possible to play a Rogue deck with very polarizing minions. Perhaps you can play one with very few, maybe even like 1 or 2 really big minions, and all the other minions in your deck are pirates. So if you can perhaps force draw your pirates, you can perhaps get a consistently high Grawl the Shark effect. That's just one way to look at it, and I'm sure there's going to be more angles to this card as we see more of the upcoming Rastakhan expansion. How good is Grawl the Shark, though? Let's quickly think about this. I'm going to have to give it 2 stars. I think the card has some, but very little chance to be in kind of like a fringe deck. Of course, it's going to generally be oppressive and dominating in Arena, but in general, I think it's not going to be a success in either format on average. Yeah. Next up, though, is a very exciting card. We have Hakar the Soulflayer. It's a 10 cost 9/6 with a very interesting death rattle. The death rattle shuffles Corrupted Blood into both players' deck. So cast when drawn. I do need to clarify, I have seen the gameplay clip. I have researched, I have seen all the comments. I am like 100% sure the way I'm going to explain this card is the way it actually works, based on what we have seen from the gameplay footage and some of the comments that resonate with how I think Hearthstone works, okay? So this is the way this card works. In the gameplay trailer, cast when drawn now means cast when drawn and then draw your regular card. Corrupted Blood, when drawn, will trigger its effect and then draw you your next real card. Okay, that is very important. So you take 3 damage, and after you draw, shuffle 2 copies of this into your deck. So basically, you just take 3 damage from time to time. You can play it in kind of like a face deck, but not really. That's not the point of this card. The point of this card is to just completely kill someone when fatigue starts. It turns Hearthstone's fatigue mechanic into the Magic the Gathering fatigue mechanic, where if you run out of cards in your deck, you just die. You just lose the game. Now, it doesn't do that immediately, so let me explain. Let's pretend that neither player has any cards in their deck, shall we? And then Hakar dies, and then both players gain a Corrupted Blood in their deck, and it becomes their only card. So then it becomes your opponent's turn. He draws the Corrupted Blood, takes 3 damage, then draws his next normal card, which is no card, because he has no cards left, takes 1 fatigue damage, so he takes 4 damage, and then after that, it shuffles 2 Corrupted Blood into his deck. So he doesn't die on the first turn, he takes 4 damage, but now he has 2 Corrupted Bloods in his deck. Okay, so what will happen on the next turn is you take 3 damage from the first Corrupted Blood when drawn. You take another 3 damage because then you draw your next card, which is also Corrupted Blood. So you're taking 6, and then you take the normal fatigue, which is 2. And then each of those 2 Corrupted Bloods becomes 4 Corrupted Bloods. So, you know, the first time you go into fatigue with Corrupted Blood filled deck, you take 4, and then you take 8, and then you take it's 3 times 4 plus 3, 15. So it basically ramps up fatigue exponentially to a point where you can't really survive in fatigue. You basically instantly die when you hit fatigue. It is going to take maybe 2 turns, maybe 3 turns, maybe 4 turns if you're some kind of, armored up control warrior, but that's just kind of how it works. This card is very interesting, but I don't think it's going to be particularly useful, but that's certainly not going to stop me from trying it, because I think this card is wicked awesome. This card is going to be 1 star. I think it's going to be horrible in Arena, and I think it's going to be horrible in Constructed, but once again, I need to clarify that I don't care. I'm going to play this card because this card is really cool. Thank you, Blizzard. I love cards that suck but are really cool. Those are the kind of cards that I like in Hearthstone. Next up, we have a Paladin minion that meets some of the criteria in which I mentioned that actually makes cards very good. It's a 4-cost 4/4, but if you've restored 10 health this game, so this is not like, healing your hero for 10. This is like restoring 10 health. For example, if you're playing the 3-cost dude that restores 2 to everything, it's very easy to satisfy this requirement. You can potentially play, instead of Heal Zoolock, perhaps you can play Heal Zoo Paladin. That might sound pretty dumb, but just wait for the upcoming expansion. I don't think it's going to be all that dumb. There's also a large number of spells that allow you to heal in Paladin, so maybe you can include this card in like a control deck, because when you satisfy that requirement, it's a 4-cost 8/8 taunt. Gigantic undercosted taunt minions are always going to surprise you with their play rate. As such, I'm going to have to rate this card 4.5 stars. Not quite meta-defining, but perhaps even meta-defining. Certainly an extremely high power level with only a little bit of deck build around to get the synergy to trigger. And I think it's going to have the flexibility of being included in some zoo heal-based paladins as well as the slower mid-range and control paladins. It has a lot of opportunity to see play, and I'm sure it's going to land on one of those decks at least. Now we have the legendary dude that's not exactly the Lowa warrior card, Warmaster Voon. 4-cost, 4/3 battlecry copies your dragons in your hand. So you get twice as many dragons in your hand. If you're holding like 2 badass dragons, well, you have 2 copies of each badass dragon after you play this card. In terms of stats, it's not too bad. In general, Warrior's strategy of massing up value without card draw, so it can still have the ultimate win condition of fatiguing you out, are very useful. So this card is very useful. I imagine it will be included in every instance of Dragon Warrior, and I imagine with the fact that nearly all the Warrior cards we've seen so far synergize with dragons, it is going to be probably the Lowa style theme of playing Warrior, and if there's any more dragon synergies, it's certainly going to be played, as they are very good. As a small kind of note here, Warmaster Voon was originally revealed as a 5-cost 4/4, and then I mentioned that this card is definitely going to be good because they nerfed it to 4 mana. And okay, it's a debatable nerf because his mana cost goes down only by 1 and he only loses 1 stat. That in general is actually a buff. But considering that a lot of the very nice dragons are odd mana costs, and the dragon requirement executing card is odd mana cost, and the only way you really play Warrior extremely successfully right now is Odd Warrior, I would say that Blizzard has nerfed this card because they do not want you to play Odd Warrior with the dragon theme. They probably want you to just play Dragon Warrior and not Odd Warrior. I understand that. The fact that they did a last-minute change to this card probably tells us that Dragon Warrior is going to be pretty good, and I'm going to rate this card 5 stars as a result. It's just, I'm sure it's going to be played, and even still, I'm sure it's going to be pretty weak in Arena, but not entirely hopeless. Warrior in Arena can often afford to be patient, so you might just double up on 1 dragon, and in terms of arena power levels, doubling up on 1 dragon is a-okay. Next up is another dragon synergy card, but it is a neutral one. It's a 2-cost 2/2, so relatively poor stats, but not hopeless level stats, and you get to discover a spell if you're holding a dragon. So it's very much like the Netherspite Historian of old ages now, you know, it's certainly not in standard format, where it's basically a low-cost dude that cantrips and gives you some kind of value for 2 mana. It's generally a very good inclusion. I think it's going to be a little bit weaker than Dragonspite Historian, but it doesn't really matter. I think it would serve very much of the same purpose. So it'll probably see some play in some kind of dragon deck in the future. Certainly not meta-defining, but if it's going to see played in decks that are probably going to be good, it's going to earn itself 4 stars. That's right, 4 stars. I think it's going to be used in powerful decks, and I think it's going to find a place from time to time in the odd arena deck. Well, not the odd arena deck, just the rare arena deck that includes some dragons. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys in a bit.